This episode has been brought to you from the DGMS Studios, home of Don't Get Me Started, Lethal and Mully Live and Surftown. Found at Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music and wherever you listen to your podcast. Welcome to Noosa Now, the podcast that celebrates the diverse cultures, workplaces and people that make up the vibrant community of Noosa. From builders to baristas and everything in between, we delve into the stories and experiences of those who call Noosa home. Join us as we explore the unique tapestry of this coastal paradise and discover what makes it such a special place to live, work and play. Thank you for tuning in to Noosa Now, where every voice is heard and every story is celebrated.
Today, my guest on Noosa Now is Andrew Trout, a Noosa-based triathlete. Andrew has made his reputation in the triathlon world competing in such events as the Ultra 355, which he has done 3 times. He's the only person to have completed it that number. He's completed in the New Zealand Iron Man twice, the Port Macquarie Iron Man Australia event 9 times, having finished 8 of those attempts, the Melbourne Iron Man 3 times, the 24-hour triathlon in Kawana, which he competed in the 1 time. That's quite a list of achievements there, Andrew. I'm quite exhausted almost just reading about it. You said before, you expressed some surprise before when I said they were ultra events. Anything else you've done besides that?
Yes, one other Ultra Man Australia, which is on every year here in Noosa. They just had the 10th anniversary this year, actually, just last May. But I did that in 2021 as well. But that's as far as the Ultra goes. The rest of it is just general triathlons.
Just general. But I mean, 24-hour triathlon down there in Kawana, that's got to be quite extreme.
Yeah, that was going back a bit now. That was 2011. And at that stage, I'd never done an Ironman, and that was my dream ultimately to finish an Ironman. So I saw the race advertised, so I entered for it, and the idea was basically a relay. So you jumped into the pool. It was just a pool swim because of the safety, obviously, for night time, and it had to go 24 hours, so they couldn't do it in a lake or anything. So you jumped in the pool, you swam 300 metres, you came out, you rode on your bike 9 kilometres, you went straight through the finish line, and then you ran 2 kilometres. And as soon as you went through the finish line of the run, you basically ran straight through into the transition and straight to the pool, and then just did it over and over and over again. I got 21 laps in the 24 hours, so I was pretty happy with that. And the distances added up worked out to be just on pretty close to the same distance as an Ironman. So that gave me a lot of confidence, and I thought I could pretty confident now that I could actually do an Ironman. So that's how that all sort of came about.
So those 3 different events in that cycle, you compete from the start of the clock until 24 hours later exactly, or do you a number of cycles? No,
the clock starts from 4 o'clock on the Saturday, and the clock doesn't stop till 4 p.m. on the Sunday. So so you just continue doing triathlons that whole 24-hour period.
My God. What do you do to keep yourself hydrated, or do you have any rests in between the cycles?
Yeah, the course at the time was down at Kawana in Australia, Noosa, if you know that area. There's the road called Sportsman's Parade, where it's right next to the lake. So there's a lot of grassed area along there. So you could actually take camping gear, and families, other competitors that had done it, they'd families come for the weekend and they'd camp next to the actual course. So you could be running along or riding along and stop any time that you wanted to stop, as long as you weren't making a forward motion. You could stop on the course, have a feed, sit down, have an hour's rest, have a 2-hour sleep if you wanted. And as long as you got back and entered the course at the same place, you could continue on the race. Some slept, some didn't. In the 24 hours, I think I had about a 2-hour period where I slept, and that was about 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'd been going since 4 p.m. Saturday to about 2 a.m. on the Sunday. And I just remember the PA, the guy on the PA giving the positions of people, and I sort of woke up half dazed, and I heard this guy's name and he was coming 3rd or something. And I thought, oh wow, I was actually ahead of him. So I've just sort of got inspired, and I got back on and off I went, kept going, and I ended up coming equal 3rd on that race. So that was probably one of the best results I'd had.
The whole event, you're aiming for a podium finish. It's not the amount of cycles that you compete as a PB, for example.
No, it's on how many laps. So in that 24 period, if you did 21 laps, 22, 23, 24, so the person with the most laps won that race. And then if coincidentally they'd done the same amount of laps, then obviously it was a person who'd done those laps quicker than the other person. So I think the winner did it about 27 or 28 laps in that 24-hour period. I can't remember the exact, it was a while ago now.
And that was your first ultra or extreme event?
Yeah, that was my first triathlon, that is, yeah. I'd done lots of cycling before that.
What sort of cycling?
Long distance cycling, 200-300 Ks in a day. Done a lot of touring, no races at all, just for the love of cycling. In my early 20s, I rode from Melbourne to Sydney, which is about 800 kilometres. I'd ridden from Melbourne to Adelaide, which is around about the same distance, and then headed across to Kangaroo Island, which is over South Australia there, and rode all the way around Kangaroo Island. I've ridden around Tasmania twice, and then I...
Say that again, please.
Ridden around Tasmania twice.
Under competition, competitive environment?
Not competitions. They were just tours with friends and other cyclists. And
just for the heck of it?
Just for the heck of it, yeah.
You don't have television at home? You don't read a book? You don't go out for coffee?
There's plenty of coffee in that, yeah.
That'd have to be, I imagine, yes.
And then there was New Zealand. I rode all the way around the South Island of New Zealand, which spurred my love of that country that was in 1992. That was a long time ago. So I've been back there 6 times now, New Zealand. Now,
Tasmania and the South Island of New Zealand are large land masses. You don't just hop on a bike and ride around. You'd have to stop somewhere for the night, and also if it rains, you've got to have some sort of logistical support.
Yeah,
how does all that work?
The earlier rides that I did, like those ones, were organised events. The landscape now is a whole lot different than it was back then. I mean, there's a lot of Ironmans and Ultramans and those sort of events now, but those sort of touring rides that I used to do back then, they don't seem to be happening anymore, but they were really good. So some of them would be 1,500 people on these rides, and we'd take up entire football grounds. So to be a tent city, some of the best times of my life have been on some of those rides, you know, when you just ride with your friends each day and get to camp and set up your camp, and all your gear was carried from one town to the next by semi-trailers and organised transport. And then you just party and get up the next morning and ride the next day and keep going.
Party.
Yeah, party.
You're an ultra marathon or you're an ultra athlete and you have a grueling day ahead of yourself. I would imagine you come home exhausted after a day's riding, or back to camp after a day's riding, shower, have some food and pretty well straight to bed.
Well, now, yeah, because age shall weary us, shall we say. But no, in those days, no, God. We used to, quite often, we would ride 100 and so Ks. We'd be barbecue in the afternoon at the campsite. We'd go back to the pub to have dinner, and then we wouldn't get out of the nightclub till sometimes 2 a.m. And then back on the bike at 7 or 8 a.m. and do it all again.
On the bike for how many hours?
4 or 5, depending on the distance.
So would it be fair, could we say what happens at the camp stays at the camp on those events?
Pretty much. We drank a couple of pubs dry. But we won a can tacking competition. This is an interesting one in New Zealand, in a place called Methven on the South Island. It was a ski town, but this was summer. This was February, so there was no snow, but it was an old ski town. And we went into the pub at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon and started drinking. And one of the games we used to play back then was, and they were cans. They used to sell the cans over the bar. So when you finish your can, you had to stack it on top of another can. But once you positioned that can on top of the can below it, you couldn't touch that can anymore. So the next can you drank, you stacked it on top of that again. So by the time you get to 4, 5, 6, 7 cans, the first can that you touched at the bottom cannot be touched anymore. So you've got to strategically place that can in a perfect, position so that when you get quite high, it's not going to topple over. And I got the record at Methven, I'm proud to say, and the publican actually had my photo on his notice board for quite a few years after that. We got to 36 cans, and to the point where we got to the top of the ceiling, and they had foam tiles, like lots of commercial buildings have the tiles in the ceiling. We got to the tile, we couldn't get any further, so we got permission from the publican to remove one of the ceiling tiles, move it away so that we could continue stacking cans up into the ceiling cavity. And we got to 36 before it actually toppled over, so yeah, that was pretty...
I'm finding this hard to imagine in my mind, because we're talking about very fit athletes here competing in an extreme event, and you're going off in the evenings to party, drinking beers well past midnight. And I'm just picturing being in the pack of cyclists going down the highway with a headwind, and the guy in front of you happens to bring up a little bit of what he ingested last night and it's blown back to the cyclist behind him.
I've never had that happen. Generally, we'll move across the side of the road when but no, that's never happened to me. But, I mean, you can go to elite. You can mention elites like Greg Welch, world champion, Ironman world champion, and they used in those days. Yeah, they used to party hard. Some of those guys.
It just doesn't seem to be fitting the stereotype. Ultra athletes, ultra triathletes seem to me to be supremely fit and would be very conscious of what they ingested or digested.
Yeah, I suppose, but being fit allows you to do that as well.
To indulge.
I mean, there's many silly competitions like pub crawls, isn't there? You run. I did one in Melbourne quite a few years ago now, run by a mate of mine, Phil, and it was called the Filthy Phil Run, and it was because there's quite a few pubs in inner city Melbourne. So it was run 1 kilometre, pub, scull a schooner of beer, run another kilometre, scull a schooner of beer. So it was a 10-kilometre run with 1 schooner of beer. So by the time you got to the 10th kilometre, you've drunk 10 schooners of beer.
No, you haven't drunk them. You've sculled them. That's just
sculled them. Yeah,
that's a pour down the throat. That's how you get drunk very quickly.
You think drinking 10 schooners of beer is a good effort anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to do it when you're running 10 kilometres, and we used to do crazy stuff like that all the time.
How would you be at the end of that?
Oh, pissed.
Yeah, I know, but would you feel sick?
No, not really. Some guys used to vomit, but
I bet they did.
No, never.
But now, this is quite mind-blowing for me because I've introduced you as a very fit, a very keen triathlete
On a tangent, haven't we?
Who's got this amazing record, the Ultra 355, the New Zealand Ironman, the Port Macquarie Iron Man Australia, the Melbourne Iron Man, etc. All these mega distance cycling events you've been in. So to hear of the indulgent side, almost carelessness of your well-being going hand in hand with this is just a bit of an eye-opener to me. And is this some sort of confession that you're outlaying here, Andrew? Is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
The questions have been asked, and we've just ended up there. It's certainly not a confession.
So when
this is a long time ago, though. Remember, this is 30 years ago. That was a bit.
So for the average person that does not have any knowledge of the triathlete's world, hears a lot about performance-enhancing drugs. We've had all the scandals with all of that in many sports, and of course a very high-profile one in cycling that you'll be aware of is Lance Armstrong. And all of these athletes, supremely fit, toned to the highest degree, they're very conscious of what they do so that they can perform to their absolute peak. So you're kind of pulling back the veil a little bit here to tell us ordinary people that you're not all superhuman who are just massively fanatical about being at your maximum fitness.
Certainly not fanatical about, no. I've always done it because I just enjoy doing it. I just have train with my friends and compete with my friends. But what you mentioned there that's going on a whole different tangent, isn't it? I mean, you're talking about drugs in sport. To me, that's the opposite of, you don't look after your body if you're going to put drugs into it. So their only goal is to win, and that's foremost above their mind. They're not thinking about the health. They're not thinking about their well-being. They will take drugs that they've never even heard of, risking their life because they just want the result at the end. So that's a whole different ballgame again.
Yeah, and the stakes for those high-profile professional events are a lot higher, aren't they? As much as these events that I've read out that you have participated in, the national ones for New Zealand and Australia, etc., I wouldn't imagine that you are going to become an instant millionaire if you win the Port Macquarie Iron Man Australia
Absolutely not.
5 times in a row, right?
No,
it's probably going to cost you more to be in it than...
A lot of professional athletes out there that are struggling. So, no, there's certainly not a lot of money in it.
Now, you mentioned that the 24-hour triathlon down in Kawana, where you actually completed it, triggered in you a realization that you could do these events, right? So that was more or less the springboard that got you off into becoming a triathlete that went off to do all these events that we have already spoken about, right? But correct?
Correct, yeah.
But before we go a little bit more about some of these events, can I just take you back to the beginning? Because I believe you didn't start your young life as wanting to be a triathlete. I believe you were a surfer.
Well, that's I took up surfing when I was 16.
Where was this, Andrew?
That was in Torquay. I used to live in Torquay down in Victoria, Australia, which is world famous as the home of surfing in, not so much the world, but Australia anyway.
No, definitely the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well known around the world for sure.
It's the home of rip curl, quicksilver. And I was lucky enough I was a carpenter. I was lucky enough to build some of the building, like the builders I used to work for. He had the contract for rip curl and quicksilver. So we actually built the offices down there. And Oakley Sunglasses, we built the factory there as well. So
were you invited to their opening parties? That's perhaps where you got the party taste?
No, I was just a lowly carpenter. Didn't get invited to any of those
legendary events.
Well, some of those parties have a history all on their own. I'm not going to talk about what used to happen in those parties on here, of course.
Wasn't there one with elephants or something at one time?
I don't know.
Anyway, I diverge. I'm sorry. Go back to you're a carpenter in Torquay.
Yep. So, I surfed for many years, just with mates down there, and that's how I got into triathlon, basically.
What, through surfing?
Through surfing.
Can you explain that?
I think how we got onto that.
Was it the fact that you saw something that attracted you that surfing wasn't offering you?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I was living with a couple of guys and we had some of the best times of our life while we were there. We were at Point Danger, actually. We used to live at Point Danger just near the Surf Lifesaving Club in Torquay. They were there was a few drugs and things that used to happen around there, and I wasn't really into that. So sometimes I'd just go off on my bike and I enjoy myself by myself. That was my solace in life, cycling. And that sort of grew from there. It was like, I surfed a lot, but I was never fanatical about it. And when I found a bike, bought a bike in the early 80s, I just seemed to love that more. I could get out and just enjoy myself because I'm a little bit of an introvert as well. And then that's when I started just doing bike tours by myself. And that would, I'd just come back. And one particular time I remember I'd met one of our local trades guys. That's right. He was our auto electrician, Mick Sheen, actually I remember his name. And he was doing triathlons back then, and I met him and it just looked like fun. So I thought to myself, well, I can ride a bike and I can swim, surfed for years. I just got to start running. So I started running. That's pretty much how I got into triathlon. And I did my first one at St Kilda, quite a small one, and it just went from there.
You've moved from Victoria, you're now in Noosa base, you've been here for many, many years. So when you moved north and you found that there was an active triathlete scene up here, was that a natural step for you to go into?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that was my passion at the time. And it was June of 1993, actually, when my father announced that he was buying his brother's commercial cleaning business up in Noosa. And early 90s was the recession that Australia needed to have, as you know. So work was very quiet in the building industry. So he said, look, come up for 2 weeks holiday. It won't cost you a cent, just come up because I've just got to finalise the business. And so I came up with my father in, like I say, June of 93 and spent 2 weeks here. And it was just the typical Noosa winter weather. It wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was about 22-25 degrees each day, and nights were nothing less than 13 or 14 degrees. It was I just couldn't believe it. It was like our summertime down in Victoria. So I trained every day and swam every day. And then when the 2 weeks was up, we drove home again, the 21 hours drive back to Melbourne. And literally, this is exactly how it happened. On the Sunday we arrived home, literally within 7 days, I'd sold both my cars. I had a work car and just a normal car. I'd sold both my cars, organised accommodation, got rid of my accommodation down there, packed everything up, blah, blah. So within 7 days, the Sunday later, I was back in Noosa and I never left. That was 33 years ago. So I just fell in love with the place.
All right, so we're fast forwarding a little bit. You've arrived here on the Sunshine Coast. You've competed in the 24-hour triathlon in Kawana, which has given you a taste, and you're able to do that because of what you discovered and what you're doing in Victoria. Once you realised that you could do triathletes or triathlons, what was the next step from there?
Well, to step back a bit from there as well, that was always a challenge to even do that, because from my operations when I was younger, I had bone grafts when I was about 12, 13 years old in both legs. So I had bone taken out of both shins and implanted into both ankles. So I have no cartilage on my heels at all. They're fused. My heel bones are actually fused to my ankles. So I have a lot of physical issues happening, and I just wanted to challenge myself and to think, well, what can I do? So before I knew that the 24-hour triathlon was a thing. I went to a podiatrist next to work one day and I said to him, look, I want to do an Ironman. And he said, okay, let's have a look. So he put me on the treadmill and did an analysis of my gait and my feet and everything. And he just said, you what? And I said, yeah, I want to do an Ironman. It's always been a dream. I've been doing triathlon for a little while. I can run a bit, but I just want to know that I can do a marathon. So I got orthotics and everything. This is just before my first one in Melbourne in 2012. But I remember his words to me when we'd finished the analysis and he recommended that I didn't. He said I shouldn't be running. His exact words were, aerodynamically, bees scientifically proven that they can't fly, but they do. And he said, you're scientifically proven that you shouldn't be able to run, but you do. So it was just grit that keeps me going. I just wanted to do the events and I realised that I can do them, so why not? And that's how I got into ultra, because once I'd done an Ironman, I realised that I could do that. And then it just progresses from there and you think, well, what can this body do? What is it capable of? And so that's how I got as far as Ultraman in Noosa, and that was my limit. That I'd found my limit.
That's an interesting point you raised there, asking yourself, how far can I go, what can this body do? So obviously that was a very motivating question for yourself. Do you think that would be common amongst triathletes?
I think so, yeah. It's 90% of humans probably wouldn't have that, but some have a curiosity, and I know I do, is just to see what you're capable of. And the feeling that you get when you achieve your goal that you've aspired to is just, it's a mind-blowing sort of thought to think that you've just done what you've done. And so that's what spurs you on to the next thing, I think, me anyway.
Do you think in this age when we're very conscious of mental health and depression, etc., pushing yourself to find out what you could body do, arriving at that point to say, all right, let's say out of 100, to make it very simple, all right, I've proven that the best I can be is 83. I can't go past that. Is there a great sense of satisfaction there, first of all, to find out exactly what you can do on the scale, so to speak, and also, well, this is me and I've got self-esteem in this, I can walk the earth a little bit taller? Is that very real?
You learn a lot about yourself, and when you're challenged in life, which we all have, and I certainly have been over the last 10 years, you realise that you can get through it. You've been to the point physically where you feel like giving up. Your body's broken, but you've found that extra millimetre to just get it done. And so when you're challenged with something in life, I think it's a lot to draw on, and it makes it easier, but you have the experience to work through that.
So you're saying that the experience that you gain by pushing yourself through these ultra events, triathlon events, can give you life lessons or tools that you can apply to everyday challenges that you might find personally, professionally, or wherever. That's what you're telling us.
100%. I think that, because if you're willing to push through a physical barrier, then it gives you more strength to push through a mental barrier. And sometimes being active and being fit, you have the chemicals running through your body, the endorphins and everything, which stimulate happiness. They stimulate feelings of self-worth and feeling good, and they can certainly help mental.
Would you agree that description that you've talked about, pushing through, accomplishing the goal that you wanted to accomplish, finding out what you can actually do in terms of pushing your body to the extremes, would be a true and better definition of an Iron Man rather than somebody who can just simply go out and complete the event?
I suppose I just feel a little humbled that I still have issues that I'm worthy of. Yeah, because I know that there's friends out there that are doing far more extreme things that I'm doing, and I just feel like
I hope that you're enjoying the podcast and the content that we're bringing to you each week. I want to take a moment to invite you to support the show. Your contributions help us continue creating high-quality episodes, bringing in exciting guests and exploring the topics you love. Every bit helps, whether it's a small donation or signing up for our Patreon account. By supporting us, you're not just helping keeping the lights on, you're becoming part of our community and helping us grow. To show our appreciation, we offer exclusive perks, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more for our supporters. So if you love what we do and you want to see us thrive, please consider signing up at buzzsprout.com/don't get me started. Support the show. Thank you for being part of our journey, and let's keep the conversation going.
No, I'm sorry, Andrew, but let me just go through this again. The Ultra 355, you're the only person to have completed it 3 times. 2 New Zealand Ironmans, 9 Port Macquarie Iron Man Australia. Only 1 you didn't finish. You're human, it seems.
Well, that was, my mother had passed away, so.
Oh my God, there you go. That's, of course you wouldn't finish it. The Ironman Melbourne 3 times and the 24-hour triathlon in Kawana and all those extreme bike rides that you've been on, you are an Ironman. You've already told me that you've done all these things, and then you've already told me that you've pushed through so many mental barriers to accomplish what you would like to accomplish. If that's not the definition of an Ironman, I don't know what is. And if you want to beat yourself up and still think that you probably are not worthy to be called that, then mate, give the whole game away and take up poker. Andrew, you've answered.
I know what you're saying.
Well and truly,
it's
man.
It's humbling when I have friends that are just doing amazing things.
But it's all relative. There's people who are just social tennis players and they're having sore elbows and they think, oh, I'll just give it up. I'll take up Tai Chi. But your approach was applied to them. They'd seek help. They'd find out a way to get through their limitations, whatever pain barrier it is there, so they can continue in the sport that they love. Now that is an iron will. Now, it's not on the same extreme or ultra scale as the ultras that you've been talking about, but isn't that person pushing through to continue his social or lady social tennising as admirable as you guys pushing through what you have to in one sense?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so man, I'm sitting here, I'm just in awe to hear what you've done. I can't, like I said at the beginning, I was almost tired reading out what you've done. That's before I found out about all your cycling. And how long have you been doing this for?
I did my first triathlon in 1991, so 34 years. And it's funny because I've got a running sheet of all the events that I did because I still have most of the results. Back in the day, you didn't have the internet, so you actually got mailed results. And works out over the 34 years that I've done not just triathlons, but cycling events and swimming events and running events, blah, blah, blah. But I've done around about 3.5 to 4 events every single year for the last 34 years.
Okay, just stop right there. Can you please say that again?
So, well, yeah. So I've competed in around 3 to 4 events every year for 34 years straight.
And we can call these ultra triathlon marathon events, broadly speaking.
Very broadly speaking. Out of those, I think 100 and whatever events, 120 events over that period, there's only 4 ultras in there, 4 ultra triathlons, 14 Ironmans, 10 half Ironman distance, 70.3s, a dozen standard distance triathlons, and then the rest are just marathon. I think I've done about 9 marathons, same half marathons, 10K runs, 5K runs, swims, ocean swims, 10K ocean swim, 5K ocean swim, done a few of those. So it's just all the events added up over that 34-year period.
So a 34-year period is plenty of time to start to wear down the body. Has that happened, or are you still competing?
No, still competing, but now I just work around the issues, which are many and varied. So my main one is my feet and my hips. So because of my feet, the shock travels up my legs into my hips. So I have a hip impingement on my left hip. My left gluteus minimus muscle was torn from the bone about 6 years ago. So that just hangs there. So I deal with that. I had a back injury when I was 26, so I've had sciatica for my whole life. And now the first 3 vertebrae, they're calcifying inside, so they're touching the nerve. So I've got all that happening as well, and I just work around it to make sure that I can continue doing what I love.
Fair enough. But do you see an end?
To be honest, no. I'll just go until something stops me. It won't be my mind. It'll most probably be my body. But if I can't manage my body and work around it to keep going, then that will be obviously the finish. But I don't want to, and I can't foresee me ever stopping doing what I'm doing.
So if those impediments do not stop you, you could foresee in your mind that you could still be doing this for another 10, 15, 20 years?
Oh, easily, yeah.
Easily?
Well, not easily, but when I say easily, it won't be easy.
Mentally, you can say.
But mentally, it's easy to go that far. I mean, my goal was so I lost my brother at 52. He was 52 when he passed away, and now I'm 62. So those 10 years, I think, is just God-given. So I just try and thank that. And then my father passed away at 72 within a 12-month period. I lost my father first and then my brother 12 months later. Dad was 72. So my goal is to at least continue what I'm doing until I was his age. So I've got another 10 years yet, because he was quite fit. He just was unlucky and had cancer from various reasons, whatever. But yeah, so I would just love to be able to do what I do when I'm his age, to show him that I could. Yeah.
Right, that is quite phenomenal, and I wish you every success, Andrew. I hope that is something that you accomplish. From what you've told me, I'm almost certain that you will. I'm sure that the times will probably drop down, but it doesn't sound to me like that is important to you. It's the participation and even the fact that I will be able to complete it.
It's never been the times for me. I mean, as I mentioned, I had operations when I was 12, 13 years old, so I've never been a runner. I did do, in my early 20s, I did do a 10K in 44 minutes. That's my personal best, which, if there's anyone out there who knows about, that's not a bad time for a 10K, a 44 minute, but that's a long time ago and a lot of wear and tear since then. So now my issues that I have, my runs aren't even runs anymore. They're basically just jog walks, or wogs as we call them. My marathons are 6-7 hours. It doesn't matter, I'll get them done.
Good man. Obviously, the will to continue is still there. If, for example, you sustained an injury or the body let you down within the next period of foreseeable time and you could no longer pursue these events, you want to be active, you want to be healthy and fit, what would you do?
I'd reassess, obviously, and find somewhere. Hey, just because you're not able-bodied doesn't stop you doing what you love. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem in getting into a chair. I've got a very good friend who I crewed for at Ultraman this year, John DeMandel, and he's vision impaired. And he's been doing triathlons as long as I have. He's 64, so blindness doesn't stop him from doing what he wants to do. And he mentioned it a while ago, actually, and I did mention it to my father quite a few years ago, that if my feet were worse than they are and if they ever did give me problems, would I contemplate chopping them off and putting blades on, carbon fibre blades? And that's, I could honestly say no, I probably wouldn't, but it's something that is not 100% out of my concept, my mind. So yeah, if you want to do something, doesn't matter what it is, you will find a way to do it.
Andrew, our time together has come to an end, and quite frankly I have just been very impressed with all that you've told me. It's been quite a surprise to hear not only what you have participated in and finished and accomplished, but to hear a little bit of the dynamics of the mental side of it and of course the party side of it. It's just been really, really wonderful. Last question, is there any heroes of the triathlon world that you have that you either know or would like to sit down and have a party night with? or sit down and talk about how to tone up a bit better?
Yeah. Heroes. Oh wow. A guy that I always admired was Craig Alexander, 3-time Iron Man World Championship Australian. I've met Craig once. Shane Kent, possibly Ultraman, winner of Ultraman Australia, and who is actually training at the moment for a race called the Arc to Arch. So yeah, he's quite an amazing guy. Good friend as well. So the Arc to Arch is a triathlon that starts in England and finishes in France.
I don't think I want to know about it. I think you're going to tell me you have to swim across the channel.
Exactly. That's the swim. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
so shout out to him.
Well, I'm sure that with all the events that you have competed in, that you're well known amongst the other triathletes, I'm sure that there's some there who would look up to you and would say that guy with his hero or with I hesitate to use the word, the handicaps, physical handicaps that he's had is somewhat of a hero to me as well. You certainly are an inspiration to me, Andrew, certainly giving me a little bit of a kick up the bum to be a little bit more proactive in some of my own challenges about fitness and mobility. So it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, mate. What's your next event?
My next event is the Hervey Bay 150 in November. And then after that, I've got New Zealand again, Iron Man New Zealand in March. 2 or 3 others between here or there.
Well, I wish you every success in the Hervey Bay event. Please stay in touch. I want to know if you podium in that or if you're finished and you're happy with your event. So Andrew, again, thanks very much for coming in and talk to us. All the best with your endeavours in the future.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Don't Get Me Started with Keith and Lee. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. To see more of Don't Get Me Started, jump onto our socials, follow us on Instagram at Lethal and Mully, Facebook and LinkedIn. If you would like to be a part of the show, email us on don'tgetmestarted2024@gmail.com. Until next time.